Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rabine Podcast, where we sit down with cybersecurity leaders, IT innovators, and business builders to explore how organizations stay resilient in a world of constant digital risk. Today, we're diving into a super interesting topic: cybersecurity insurance and the C suite dilemma. I'm Greg Rabine, and I help MSPs, MSSPs, and IT solution providers scale using AI powered systems so they can grow revenue predictably. Today, I'm joined by Carlos Diaz, Managing Director and CEO of Vulcan Business Solutions. Today's episode dives into a topic that's keeping CEOs and CISOs awake at night: cybersecurity insurance. It's supposed to provide peace of mind, yet for many, it's become one of the most complex parts of risk management. Premiums are rising, exclusions are tightening, and insurers are demanding proof of controls that even seasoned IT leaders struggle to implement. So, that's where we're going with the CISO. CISO. It's the CISO's dilemma. So let's get into it. What should every CISO know before signing the next renewal form? So my guest today is Carlos Diaz, CEO and Managing Director of Vulcan Business Solutions, a veteran and minority-owned managed IT and cybersecurity firm based in New York. And the flow of our conversation will start out with Carlos introducing himself and telling us about his background, experience, and journey. And then we'll explore trends Carlos is seeing in the industry around cybersecurity insurance. And we'll talk about opportunities and challenges. And we'll wrap it up with Carlos's thoughts on where things are headed. So welcome, Carlos.
Thank you, Gregory. I appreciate that introduction. Once again, Carlos Diaz, Vulcan Business Solutions. I'm one of the co-founders, managing partner, and CEO, as Gregory had pointed out, of our boutique-sized IT services firm. We're based out of Great Neck, New York, but our focal point happens to be nationwide. We have clients from East Coast to West Coast. For the one particular thing I'll point out, we are hyper-focused in the small business sector. Most of all of our clients are companies that are privately held with under 100 employees and revenues of probably anywhere between 5 and 35 million a year. And as Gregory says, we provide technology services support, and we have a particular interest in IT security as it pertains to cybersecurity, to be more exact. There's a number of things going on in the industry. We had an opportunity to speak briefly before we started this. There's some thoughts, some insights, but the thing I think everyone should take notice of: New York City, New York State, a number of the insurance companies have been dropping cyber for the last 5+ years, and you might not even know it. So I would encourage all of our viewers listening, watching the podcast to, pull out that cybersecurity rider. Look at your insurance policy and really understand what's being covered and what's not being covered. A number of our clients think because they have general liability or some form of E&O that they're covered. And the reality is the insurance companies will not pay out any claim unless you've done your due diligence to put certain things in place. And I think that's the crux of the issue, Gregory. You don't know what you don't know.
I agree, and it is so. That's interesting that a lot of the insurance companies are dropping cyber, or they have a specific division with specific underwriters for cyber and certain requirements. But so, Carlos, let me. I guess When does a C-level person or company founder have this aha moment? What causes this aha moment that I need to have cyber insurance? What is motivating them for that?
The most scary moment, Gregory, is when something happens and they're not covered. They don't have the right tools in place. They don't have the right mechanisms, a means to be able to recover from an incident. And it happens far too often. You might hear in the news where a major retailer or some bank was compromised. Sure, that's pretty big. We're talking compromises in the millions. The ones that are underreported are those thefts that are under $100,000. And that affects not-for-profits, that affects small business owners, it affects a number of the people who are my potential client base. Most compromises could be as little as $700. You don't notice it. Your company's you're making money, and little by little the account's being drained. There's a transaction here, a transaction there, and when they have the keys to the castle, they don't go in for the jugular. They take little by little by little, and by the time you figure it out, it could be 6 months plus in, and the loss could be in the thousands.
I agree. And there is a lot of I forget what the nesting, right? They nest in your enterprise. But I mean, this is such a large, wide-spanning topic. So, the targets your ideal customer profile. The small and medium-sized companies. Want to list for me what their priorities should be around cyber protection. In other words, should the number one choice and action item is an MSSP. Maybe where does insurance sit on that list? Is it, 4 or 5, or I mean, I just can't imagine that a small and medium sized company is going to have insurance only.
Right. And here's the thing, having insurance is one thing, having the right insurance is really where we're looking to get to. And what happens is for an insurance provider, no matter what the carrier, they're going to provide insurance based on the company's revenues, the money that they make, yada, yada. But the real thing they're going to want to do is what security tools, what metrics, what documentation do you have in order to mitigate? What have the insurance going to ask you? What have you done to mitigate this risk? Because the insurance company, hypothetically, Gregory, the insurance company says, sure, I'll insure you. You're doing revenues of X. I can insure you for this amount. But in return, I want to make sure that you're not a liability. I want to be sure that you have certain tools in place, common sense tools. And goes across the board for any managed service provider. All managed service providers, all IT consultants, anybody that's in the technology space recognizes there's some key components you have to have. You have to have some sort of protection on the computer, some form of backup, some form of network control, so that you could at least mitigate that potential threat. You have to have some tool to audit what happens in the environment. If I have an employee who's working for me, I need to be able to know when the employee logs in, when he logs out, what work he's done throughout the course of the day, what files did he touch, what information could he have potentially copy and send to somebody else. These tools, these systems are important. And for the insurance provider, they want to know, how well are you managing your business? You want me to insure you for X, I need you to do Y and Z. And this is where a lot of companies, there's a huge disconnect. The insurance broker say, you know what, you dropped this, but don't worry, you're covered. And when the incident comes up, the business owner files a claim. Oh, but wait a minute. You failed to have this in place. You failed to have that in place. You did not install this. You did not install that. And that's the fine print that no one's reading nowadays. And let's face it, we've seen these agreements before. There are pages on pages on pages, and you scroll down to the bottom, you affix your electronic signature, and you cross your fingers and hope you're covered. And that's where I'm going to tell the business owner, the responsible party, no, take the time to read every single page. It's
No,
imperative.
understand, Carlos. I mean, you know, and we know it. I mean, being parents and having health insurance and different things. But end of the day, you can buy and pay for any kind of insurance you want. But the point is for them to actually pay a claim against that policy is not guaranteed. You have to, and insurance companies, let's face it, they're in the business not to pay. So they're looking for reasons not to pay. And, and as I said in my opening, they're getting pretty sophisticated on their requirements for controls that need to be in place. And then may it be security awareness training, but I'm sure there's all of these tiers or gates to reduce the price of your premium. But I would think, Carlos, that, and then just listening to, so, hypothetically, if I'm starting a business today, it's probably not a bad idea to get to have an insurance underwriter come in, have them tell me what I need around cyber, what kind of requirements they have, and use that as a roadmap to build my cyber, defenses, if you will.
Exactly. Most providers, most reputable companies that are providing cyber insurance are going to want to do a network audit. They want to audit the existing systems, look at what you have in place, and then they're going to base their premium on finding certain things. For example, do you have strong passwords? Are you using some form of antivirus? Are you using some form of endpoint protection? Do you have an auditing tool that manages the network activity? Do you have firewall systems in place? What version is your operating system? These are all factors that the insurance companies take into consideration. So now, when we look at security, Gregory, it's a layered approach. The more layers you stack on, the better premiums you could potentially yield from the insurance companies. If the insurance company sees, hey, you've checked off 9 out of 10 boxes, I could lower my premium cost because your risk is far less. But if I check off 3 or 4 out of 10, then my premium for you has to be much higher because there are certain holes that you are leaving open that are liabilities. So the insurance companies, our partners that we work hand in hand. The insurance company will do the security scan. They'll come back to the MSP and say, hey, MSP, you did this and this, but we want to see these other 5 things added. Naturally, when you add on services, there's a cost. We have to manage, the MSP has to manage that cost for the potential clients because there's a point of diminishing returns.
Right.
Everyone wants to be 100% bulletproof. But to be 100% bulletproof, it's a fortune. And not everyone can afford to do that. And let's face it, no matter what you do to safeguard your environment, there's always going to be one creative individual out there who could find a way to circumvent it. So the best thing you could do is put in the layers of security that your business can afford, and then try to mitigate with security awareness training and proper password hygiene and education for the most part so that you don't become a victim. And these are nominal cost. They're not expensive things to do. Most compromise happen, Gregory, through social engineering. It really is. It's human error. It's people clicking on a link, responding to an email, or seeing some picture, some video, and say, oh, wow. And once they click, That's it. They're committed.
What so when does a company like the leadership of a company, what makes them to decide they need to have insurance? I know it's a breach, but do the so and then how do you get involved? How do you find these
So,
customers?
so
I guess my
you know,
question would be, just my one question would be, do you have relationships with the insurance companies and they call you up, say, Carlos, I have this client that's interested in insurance, they need some help, I'd like to introduce you. Does that ever happen?
So it does. It does. And the insurance companies work for a number of us managed service providers. I have colleagues, peers of mine, who generate their business from other insurance providers simply because there's, let's say, MSPA doesn't have all the technology, the skills, the expertise that they should have. And the insurance broker recognizes that and says, you know what, I'm going to speak to MSPB, who is much better suited for this client. And then they'll say, Mr. Client, you have your MSP, but you know what? This other MSP, through my relationship, I know they're doing far more than what your current provider's doing. And if you want a break on your insurance premiums, I'm going to have MSPB come into play. I'm going to do a security scan of your environment. I'm going to point out the holes, the liabilities, and MSPB is going to be able to patch those up for you, thus reducing your premium. And this is how we work hand in hand with these insurance companies. Keep in mind, insurance is a regulated business. I don't get a direct commission, nor does any MSP get a direct commission because we're not licensed insurance brokers. We can't share in the commissions that they make. But what we could do is enhance the services that we provide to the prospective client, the customer, meet the requirements of the insurance company in safeguarding the potential client's network, and that way mitigating the risk for all parties concerned.
Well, it seems to me that if you're the insurance provider, cybersecurity insurance provider, you need to use them as a resource. I mean, they're experts. They have very qualified staff. Obviously, it costs money to get a policy, but they're going to provide the visibility and the vehicle to properly being defending yourself against the bad guys. So, I mean, obviously, you have premiums and that's a cost, but using them as a resource to make sure you are really buttoned up.
And here's the best part of it, Gregory. The insurance companies will contract a independent party to do this scan, right? At no cost. At no cost. This is a vested interest for the MSP that's doing the scan as well as the client who's receiving the scan, because they're able to review, ascertain, diagnose, look at a potential network and say, okay, you have certain securities in place, but you're missing A, B, and C. And then working hand in hand with the insurance company and the managed service provider, you could button up those holes. Now, there's a vested interest in everybody concerned. Nobody wants to see a business get hacked into. It affects everyone, right? So the insurance company is hoping to sell their insurance policy. The MSP is looking to enhance their service offering and generate more monthly recurring revenue. The business owner, they don't want to get hacked into. They recognize their business as a target, or at least they should recognize all small businesses are targets, and they should take the offering of the insurance company to do this scan so that they could theoretically button up the holes in their network and that way mitigating their risk. Now, the important thing here, Gregory, you don't have to do it all overnight. And what I do with potential clients, prospects, working with the insurance company and the business owner, we work on a suitable time frame where we implement these layers of security over time, working with the business owner's budget, and hopefully getting to nirvana much sooner than later, right? But it's really dependent on one's budget.
Well, and you bring up an excellent point, right? It comes, and we talked about it a little earlier. It comes down to you got to pay for it. So, obviously, cyber premiums are rising, and so how does an SMB um, kind of calculate or kind of get comfortable with even how much the coverage will cost, if it makes financial sense, and how do they calculate true ROI? And is this because there's the managed service MSSSP cost, and then this is on top of that. So how do you come to grips with all this?
Well, the important thing it's mitigating downtime, right? What does it cost for the business to be offline, to be closed, to not be working, to have employees sitting around? There's a number of tools out there that both insurance companies provide, business analysis companies provide, where you would calculate your daily, weekly, monthly losses based on the number of employees, the revenue you're generating, right? And any one of these calculators you could find online. And you'll see, the losses per employee could be as much as $400, $500 an hour. So if you're a business owner and you have 5 employees and they're down for an hour, you're talking $2,500, $3,500 easily of loss per hour. So the important thing here for the business owner, and I'll tell you that a lot of them tend to ignore it because they say, oh, my business is too small, no one's paying attention to me. They're the ones that are the biggest targets.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are more apt to get hacked into because they don't have systems in place, because they have lax passwords, because they haven't invested in educating their employees. They'll nilly-willy click on a link and sure enough have their accounts compromised. What we try to do is educate the business owner that the true ROI is going to come 6 months down the road when you realize your productivity is there, you haven't had any downtime, you've mitigated certain threats to the network. Because keep in mind, Gregory, when you implement these tools, there's a reporting aspect that comes with it. We demonstrate to our clients on a monthly basis, we've mitigated X amount of attacks, we mitigated X amount of fraudulent emails, X amount of bogus links. And that way, that's the ROI. Your business is operating 6 months down the road with no hiccups, and here's the reporting to show you what implementing these tools has done for you, your business. The insurance company, yeah, they're in the business to not pay out, but they have to be fair and just. If the business owner invested in all these tools, had all these systems in place, all this documentation, all the compliance that was required, then the insurance company could sit there and say, hey, you did a good faith effort, I pay the claim. And it's kind of hard not to when you have all of the justification there. So what we try to impress upon the business owner that these tools are twofold. One, it mitigates the risk. Two, it gives proper accounting should a compromise occur. And these are the things that the insurance company wants to see before paying on any claim.
Understand. Yeah, that's great. So, so Carlos, looking ahead, how do you see the relationship between the MSP, MSSPs, and cyber insurers evolving? So, will we reach a point where managed security providers like Vulcan play a formal role in underwriting or verifying compliance?
So I'll give you an example of what we have today with our clients. If our clients are able, let's say, we have a security stack, which is what we do, our stack, our layered approach to security. If you buy into our stack 100%, we could then introduce you to insurance company A, who's going to be able to provide you a reasonable quote that fits along your budget, right? That matches your budget, matches the needs of your organization. Without that, you're pretty much left to the open market. So our clients are able to be insured day one if they are engaged with our services, subscribe to our security stack, and are receptive to our policies, our procedures, our methodology. A number of managed service providers work with the managed security service providers to deliver the tool sets needed for the client to safeguard their network. And it becomes a very symbiotic relationship with the insurance carriers because the insurance carriers are working hand in hand with the service providers. Mind you, there's no exchange of money, but we both have a mutual benefit here. If the client doesn't have a compromise, mitigates their threats, mitigates the security outages, mitigates downtime, the insurance company collects their premium, the managed service provider collects their service fee along with the fee for the tools that are being used, and the business owner remains solvent and able to operate. So all three are really tied in together.
No, that's wow. I agree. Well, we covered a lot of ground here, Carlos, and we talked about. You gave some really great advice and insights. I mean, essentially, you know, the business owners out there, you pull out your policy, read that policy, make sure you understand exactly what you signed up for and what's covered, and work with the other a part of this is, you need to work with your insurance company and use them as a resource to understand the gaps you have in your defense coverage, and then what you need to do to lower your premium and to button up the holes in your defense, and then working with the experts like you, the managed service providers or managed MSSPs, to work closely with them who completely understand the requirements of the insurance company, and then understand what your priorities are around, cyber defense and insurance for that cyber defense.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add there, Carlos?
I would just say that, for business owners, no one wants to be sold to, but you all should be open to having a conversation. And this is a conversation that should be received by the business owners. Talk to your service provider, talk to your insurance company, have the conversation, discuss the particulars. What if this happens? What if that happens? And get fair answers. And then you can then take steps to mitigate the worst case scenario.
Essentially, you have to be engaged and involved, and you can't ignore it. It's just something. There's too big of a risk to ignore it.
Yeah, and this I find, where all the businesses, everyone's busy, everyone's doing stuff, they don't have time. But you know what? You want to engage your service providers. You want to talk to your vendors. You want to talk to your IT and find out what they're doing. You want to have an open dialogue with your insurance broker and ask them pointedly, what if this happens? Am I covered? No, then what do I need to do to be covered? And if you are not getting satisfactory answers, seek other consultations. There's no harm in having a conversation. It's a sensitive subject. People want to avoid it, but it's better you tackle it now than figure it out when a compromise does occur.
And we all know it's not when, it's not if, it's when.
Yes,
So, Carlos,
absolutely.
big thanks. Big thanks to my guest, Carlos Diaz, for joining us today. To
Thank
learn
you for
more
having me.
about, yeah, thank you, Carlos. So, to learn more about Vulcan Business Solutions and their approach to cyber security for SMBs, their website is www.vbsbiz.com. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. If you found this discussion valuable, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform and share this episode with somebody who might benefit. You can also visit our website for more resources, on resources for scaling your IT services business at www.raybinassociates.com. And we encourage you to connect with Carlos and Vulcan Business Solutions. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Until next time, stay cyber resilient and keep innovating.
Thank you, Greg.